The Canadian beef industry plays a major role in contributing to Canada's economy. The beef industry contributes $22 billion to Canada's gross domestic product and creates 347,000 jobs in Canada directly and indirectly. In Canada, there are over 11 million head of beef cattle, and these beef producers manage 52.2 million acres of land. Now let's learn more about the process from a calf to the steak on your dinner plate. Cow-calf operations are the first stage within the beef supply chain. The average size of a cow-calf farm in Ontario is 20 to 25 cows. The province with the highest number of cow-calf operations in 2022 was Alberta. Farmers keep a herd of cows that are bred either naturally, through bull, or artificial insemination to produce a crop of calves each year. Nearly 90% of cow-calf operations use a bull over artificial insemination. The bull is typically put out with cows during the early summer and then removed after a few weeks. In 293 days, or just over 9 months, the cows will begin to calve in the spring for a 30 to 45 day window. The cows that don't catch are then sold for processing. It is strategically planned that cows come in during the spring due to the milder weather, putting less strain on the newborn calves, and the emerging grass will help the mothers produce an abundance of milk. Farmers plan to have all of calving done in a certain time frame to make it easier for them to keep an eye on close cows, and so all cows reach market weight roughly around the same time. The healthy cows and calves are put on pasture until they are ready to be weaned in the fall to reduce the strain on mothers during the winter. When the calves are weaned, they are typically 500 to 700 pounds and are ready for a diet of grass and hay. Farmers typically vaccinate, castrate males, and dehorn the calves if required to maximize their profit. After they are weaned, calves can undergo the backgrounding process where they are on a limited diet of forages to add the extra weight needed before shipping to market. Calves go to market around 9 to 11 months, while some heifers are kept back to replenish the herd. From a cost standpoint, the total cost of feed, consisting of grain and concentrates, forages, salt and minerals, and extended grazing forages per cow on a cow-calf farm is $493.85. The cost of feed is roughly 35% of the overall cost per cow of production, whereas pasture land and fencing is 3% of the cost. The lowest cost of feed per day per cow is during the grazing period at $1.13, compared to the highest cost during the winter at $2.34 per cow per day. The average returns on a cow-calf farm per head in Ontario from 2017 to 2021 was $145.85, and in Alberta from 2017 to 2021 was $269.89.
Auction markets are the second step of the production phase. The cattle are transported to auction markets either by transport truck or truck and trailer. There are two types of auction sales where buyers and sellers meet. The first being regular sales, which are held on a regular basis at specific locations. These regular sales are open to many types of animals, including beef, dairy, sheep, goats, and so on. The second type of auction are special sales. They have a set time and are for the sale of specific animals. If buyers are looking for higher quality cattle, it would be best to attend a special sale. As for the animals themselves, there are also two types, stockers and feeders. Stockers are typically 6 to 8 months old and weigh around 400 to 700 pounds. Stockers are normally sold to ranchers and farmers who would continue to fatten up the cattle until they reach feeder size. Feeders are around 1 to 2 years old and weigh about 800 to 1,000 pounds, maybe a little bit more. They tend to be purchased by feedlots to finish and then head to the butcher. At auction, the cattle are sold in lots that range from 1 to 15 cattle per lot. They may also be sold as cow-calf pairs or bulls. There's a direct relationship between price and weight. As weight and quality increases, the price increases. As seen on the slide, average prices vary from week to week, depending on the type and weight. Beef cattle prices are typically shown in $ per 100 pounds. The highest sale price is normally for steers at about 800 to 900 pounds. The buyers at auction markets are either private owners or companies. In the end, the cost it takes to purchase and transport the cattle to and from the auction markets adds to the final value of the end beef product.
Cattle feeders are the third stage within the beef supply chain. The average size of feedlots in Ontario are 175 head of cattle. The province with the highest number of feedlots in 2022 was Alberta. Cattle feeders either finish in a pasture setting, where they are exposed to grass and hay, or they are finished in a feedlot setting, where they are put on a high-energy diet to gain weight and muscle. Calves typically arrive at the feedlot right after weaning at a weight around 600 pounds, or they can arrive as a yearling around 900 pounds. Cattle feeders look for calves that are preconditioned. This means they are vaccinated, castrated, dehorned, and have been weaned for 30 to 45 days, as well as experienced eating from a bump. Preconditioned cattle experience less stress, which leads to the possibility of less injury and health problems amongst the cattle. Upon arrival, cattle are inspected individually to ensure they are in good health. Their identification number is written down, as well as their vaccination status, breed, age, and weight. Their diet begins with roughage, a mix of forages and nutrients, then slowly begins to change to a high-energy diet over a period of 2 weeks. The final high-energy diet the feedlot cattle are put on is around 80 to 90% grain, and the rest is forages, depending on the farm. On average, cattle will consume 2 to 3% of their body weight in dry feed in each day and gain 2.5 pounds to 4 pounds. To gain 1 pound of weight, the cattle would need to consume around 6 pounds of dry feed. Feedlot cattle are placed in spacious pens with fresh bedding regularly for them to rest. They also are checked daily by qualified staff for signs of illness, distress, or injury, and any animal displaying signs of illness are separated, treated, and not allowed to return until their condition is approved by a licensed veterinarian. Once cattle reach their goal weight of 1,400 pounds to 1,500 pounds, they are sold to a processing facility. From a cost standpoint, the total cost of feed, consisting of grain and concentrates, forages, salt and minerals, and extended grazing forages in a feedlot per head, is $683.58. The cost of feed represents 23% of the total cost of production per head. The average profit per head of cattle on a beef feedlot in Ontario from 2017 to 2021 was a loss of $168.89, and the profit per head in Alberta from 2017 to 2021 was a loss of $75.59.
For a brief overview of the processing section of the beef supply chain, 85% of all Canadian beef is slaughtered and processed in 3 packing plants, 2 in Alberta and 1 in Guelph, Ontario, and these are operated by Cargill and JBS SA, which is 2 major food production companies. These plants process almost all the beef products sold at the retail level in Canada and grocery stores, and cattle are transferred typically by truck to these plants from auctions, farms, and feedlots to be slaughtered and processed. After this, exporting, further processing, direct delivery, and delivery to distribution centers are the next step before hitting retail shelves, and this is done by refrigerated truck or other refrigerated transport. For the value added by slaughterhouses and other organizations in this section of the supply chain, we must first talk about the initial slaughtering process. Usually there are 3 simple steps that each slaughtering process uses, the first one being slaughter, where the animal is killed and processed into separate parts. The next step is aging, where flavors are improved and enzymes have the opportunity to break down the meat to tenderize it before further processing. The last step is the cutting, where the specific cuts of beef are made and handled in different ways for retail or further production. The byproducts that are produced in this slaughtering process are the carcasses and offal, and offal is the secondary organs that are not normally used for human consumption, but in some cases they are, such as intestines for sausage casings. But most of the offal produced by slaughterhouses and the carcasses is discarded or turned into fertilizer, animal feed, or even forms of fuel in some rare cases. The hide of the animal or the skin can also be transferred to another company that uses it to produce leather products. In the processing phase, domestic meats can be mixed with imported meats from other countries for further production, but the normal retail cuts and specialty cuts of meat, such as cured or smoked meat, are prepared for distribution and shipment at other plants that are not the slaughterhouse. Next, there are often secondary processors separate from the large 3 plants mentioned before. Those large 3 plants, the 2 in Alberta and the 1 in Ontario, normally do bulk beef production and do not do small batch or specialized beef production, and that is what these small secondary producers do. And they often produce directly at a location and then sell at that location, or they sell to areas local to them. And examples of this are Brubaker Meats in Guelph, Ontario, or West Grey Premium Beef in Grey County.
The packaging and distribution of beef products. The end beef product is then sold by packers to the final consumer through grocery stores, food service industries, and other retail outlets. Canada is one of the largest exporters of beef in the world, and approximately 39% of Canadian beef goes to export markets, such as the United States, Asia, and Europe. In 2019, Canadians spent $399 on beef per household, accounting for 42.5% of household meat consumption. Since 2010, the price of fresh and frozen beef has increased 57%. Prime rib roast remained the highest priced beef product at $32.65 a kilogram, while ground beef, $11.41 per kilogram, had the lowest price. Retail prices of beef products increased from 2010 to 2015 due to supply and demand factors, and then stabilized in the subsequent years. The major factor that led to beef's dramatic price increase can be traced back to 2020, when COVID shut down production plants and hobbled the nation's meat production capabilities. Despite this, beef and cattle ranching is a big part of our economy and important to Canadians. Canada's beef industry is one of the most environmentally responsible in the world, and farmers are legally required to treat their animals humanely. For consumers, this means marinated cuts, cooked prime rib, kebabs, corned beef, and fresh burgers are all popular value-added beef options. It is millennials, empty nesters, and busy families who are the most interested in value-added meats because they are quick, convenient, and tasty.